Welcome to A Brief Pause. We sit down and talk about a variety of pet-related issues like health and wellness, grooming, training. Today, I'm so excited to have on again Dr. Lisa Lippman. We always call Dr. Lisa Lippman for all of our questions. She is the one that I refer to my clients and call her with any weird thing I see. And I'm so excited to talk to her about this topic of CBD, which obviously has been growing over the years. And you'll notice not a lot of people are hearing a lot from veterinarians about it, and she will explain why. So I'm so excited. Welcome back, Dr. Lisa, and thank you so much for taking your time to clarify this subject because it comes up a lot. It's way more and more popular. We offer it at my company, but I think overall, it's still a bit of a mystery to people. So can you tell us what CBD is, basically?
CBD is also called cannabidiol. It is a compound that is found in either, mostly in the hemp plant, and that is different from the marijuana plant in that it doesn't have THC, or legally it needs to have like less than 0.3% THC in it. So we don't have the same like psychoactive effects. We don't have the same, they don't get high from it, things like that. But it has other benefits like fiber, everything from like fiber content, vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, all of that has been found to be in the CBD plant.
Okay, so why, what are people claiming? I know there's a lot of claims, kind of like a snake oil thing that CBD can help or fix or everything else. What would you say the biggest ones are, and how's it used in pets?
Yeah. So most of unfortunately, because of the laws, it's been so restricted. It's been really hard to study. And so we just don't have a lot of amazing studies on it. But anecdotally, pet parents will use it for everything from arthritis and pain is probably one of the biggest one. There is a study with Medterra, who I have a partnership with in full disclosure, but they did a study with Baylor College of Medicine, and that was on osteoarthritis in dogs, showing that it has some benefit. And they plan to do further studies on that. And so pet parents will use it for everything from things like osteoarthritis to things like seizures. I have a very interesting Instagram live if you're interested on CBD and seizure use, with a board certified veterinary neurologist on my Instagram, on my IGTV, where he just talks about there are some studies being done right now with CBD for seizure use. There's lots of limitations like the amount we would need to use and the cost of that, and so it's really interesting. But yeah, so it's purported to help with everything from, again, osteoarthritis to seizures.
Yeah, I hear a lot in my specific field about the use of it for anxiety. And I've heard really good things when people are sort of using it every day. And even from other veterinarians and their pets are saying, I've used it, it seems to work. And then what, you know, safety wise, what's the biggest difference between that and, say, for instance, a dog with anxiety versus a medication?
Well, that's the nice thing about CBD is that actually it's virtually impossible to overdose on, and there are that's why we're really pushing for studies actually right now is because of the safety margin. And it's always nice when we can have an option like CBD for things that will work. As far as the anxiety goes, yeah, I mean, anecdotally, I think actually Elevet may be doing a study on this, but anecdotally, a lot of people do use it for mild anxiety. I mean, I get a lot of people who come to me and say, "Oh, I tried CBD, it didn't work at all," and I say, "Well, that's because your pet is already up here, right? If you're coming to me about it, your pet's way severe and it's not meant for that, right? You're already past this point. And so it's not magic. Nothing we use is magic, even drugs sometimes. Everything has to be done in conjunction with each other, multimodal therapy, training, things like that. But for like mild anxiety or things like that, anecdotally, I've had some clients who really like it.
Speaking of not being able to overdose on it, it reminds me also of this article I read this week. I cannot remember where, but it was talking about they just did a study somewhere, whatnot, and they were claiming in the study that the treats for animals that, CBD infused treats, they found to be less effective than giving direct oil. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me about like oil versus treats and stuff. I mean, as far as we know, it really should not matter much what formula you give it in. So I haven't seen anything about that. I think it's also very personal preference. I mean, there are animals who we just can't get to take the treats or won't take the oil, or maybe it's easier to drop the oil in their food. And so the best method is going to be the one that you can be the most compliant with. I think there might be something on that. I have to look at that, but ultimately for pets, it's going to be the one that they're most compliant with.
Sure. Now, we keep saying pets. What animals are we really talking about here that this has been kind of used on and is around for?
So I think the research has mostly been done on dogs and maybe primates, probably some rats, but otherwise, I mean, we know that almost every mammal has an endocannabinoid system, and that's what cannabis or that's what cannabidiol works on, is what's called the endocannabinoid system. And that is a system that has receptors in our peripheral and central nervous system, meaning like our brain, our spinal cord, all of our nerves. And it really serves to regulate like homeostasis and just health overall in the body. So we know that, yeah, almost I think every mammal has one. I think even there are some like fish or shellfish, something like that, that have them as well. So almost every animal has an endocannabinoid system.
So have you found it as common in your practice for people to ask about it for cats?
Cats are just not as common overall, right? It's estimated that over 50% of cats don't get the care that they need because people just bring them to the vet less. They spend less money on them. So we don't get as much. I personally don't have as much attention paid, with cats, but certainly we can use it in cats, and people have used it in cats. So
Sure. I wonder as cat behavior knowledge evolves over time, how much, because it might be tricky to decide when a cat's anxious or when people label just mean
yeah,
or not
yeah,
not
yeah,
social and stuff like that. It might
definitely.
be that people
Yeah,
just do less about a cat that's not as friendly.
there are a lot of cats I put on Prozac, and we also know that cat osteoarthritis goes is significantly underdiagnosed, again because they're so good at hiding things, because people don't really take them to the vet as often. They don't spend as much money on them. But cats also are notoriously difficult to treat for pain. They have very low like safety profiles with a lot of the pain medications that we use, and so looking at CBD again for both dogs and cats because of the safety profile is huge. It's really really needed. I mean, basically, our pain medications right now are things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, like doggy or cat Advil, which can have a lot of adverse effects. They can have kidney, liver dysfunction, internal bleeding, things like that. And the opioids, which can make them like loopy and hallucinate and have some adverse effects there, but are safer overall. So it would be incredible to have something with such a high safety margin that can also be effective. And so there's definitely studies going on looking at how to make that happen.
Yeah. Now I know can you explain to people why you're not hearing more veterinarians talk about this?
Yeah. So number one, I think, well, number one is because of the law. So the law really prohibits veterinarians from almost even discussing it with their clients, unfortunately, because we're the ones with the knowledge, we're the ones who should be guiding it. It's a really backward, misguided law having to do with like the schedule of marijuana and the CBD plant. And Yeah, it's really backwards and misguided. So a lot of veterinarians are very hesitant to talk about it. They actually could lose their license for either recommending it or prescribing it, which you won't hear me do. I won't overtly recommend or prescribe it, but I do talk about, what my clients see, what the studies are, what the benefits are, and then secondly, veterinarians, they're very science minded. We really love studies. And so we really need the studies and the evidence that it will um, number one, do what it say it's going to do, and at the very least, cause no harm. Have does it have certain interactions with different medications or things that we want to use? We really just don't know all of that right now, and so again, so much more research is needed with it.
Yeah, you just mentioned, cause no harm. And I want to mention anecdotally that I've been asked to administer and told by some veterinarians that I groom their dogs, not you, and I'm not going to name names, although I don't know that they would care, but to give the CBD for their dog, and that they had been using the treats every day and found a 9-day difference for their dog. So that's kind of what I'll tell my clients when they ask about it, because that's all you can really say. And then I just tell them to do their own research and make up their own mind, because that's pretty much what we have now. But circling back, you said do no harm. We did an episode with Dr. Katie last season about poison control and pet poison control, because I really thought it'd be cool if people realize that there's a number for that you can call.
Mhm. There's two.
Yeah, well, there's a couple different
There's the pet
whatnots.
poison hotline and ASPCA usually is what I recommend. Mhm.
Yes, yeah, and I think she had used to work with the ASPCA, but it's just cool. People know, like, you can hop on Google, find the number, put it on your fridge, whatever you got to do, and just know that it exists, because it's a lot faster than trying to call a regular
I
poison
keep the
control.
number. I keep the number in my phone. An ASPCA poison control. If your pet is microchipped and that microchip is registered with Home Again, then it's actually a free call. Otherwise, it's usually I think around $85. But a lot of people don't know this. But if you call and say my pet is microchipped and registered with Home Again, so what I tell people is I keep the ASPCA poison control phone number in my phone, and in a note in there, I keep her microchip ID number, because they will ask for that. So when you call, it's free. You have everything right there. Yeah, I've called them. I've called them many times because I can't, because it's free, because Chloe is microchipped and registered with Home Again, and so why not?
Yeah, and it's
If you
such a
just want to be safe.
specific, yeah. And I mean, you're saying that as a veterinarian, and I don't think people think about the fact, doctor or not, there's so many chemicals out in this world, most of them not intended for pets, if that's why you're calling,
Yeah.
that even you can't keep them all straight in your mind. And if you're panicked about your own pet,
Oh
especially,
yeah, and a lot of stuff is proprietary, so we won't even have amounts of certain ingredients. But yeah, there are so many different things, and Chloe is not one to get into things. But I can't tell you how many weird situations we've had happen where I would never have expected it, where I really relied on poison control. So yeah, really
that's
important.
cool. Yeah. And I know we went off on a side thing there, but I do think it's really
Yeah.
important information for people. The reason I was asking is you mentioned it's really hard to OD on CBD. And during that episode with Dr. Katie, we talked about overdosing on THC, which is the psychoactive one, and they absolutely can do that.
Yes.
But the CBD treats, say the dog gets into the entire bag of the treats, because they do give dosages. So how concerned should people be, or what should they do if that happens? What
Yeah.
what happens next?
Yeah. I mean, I think, did Chloe eat a half a bag of CBD treats once? She might have done that. I don't remember, but it definitely happens. And usually, again, I would not, the first step is I wouldn't panic. Overall, again, it's typically very hard to overdose on. Usually, though, those CBD treats can come with other ingredients in them. So that's where, and usually those ingredients are also pretty safe. They're things like melatonin, L-theanine, still really hard to overdose on. They might be really sleepy, but I would definitely always recommend calling poison control in those situations too, to be safe. So,
Sure, that's a good idea. Well, thank you so much for sharing all this information. And as this industry grows and as more and more people start using it, I'm sure we're going to have more questions to ask you. And we will be asking you all those questions.
yeah.
And where can people find you and keep up? Because you do give a lot of free information and make really cool videos on your social media.
Thanks. It's just at Dr. Lisa Lippman. Everything is there. If you put in Dr. Lisa, it probably should come up. DrLisa L-I-double-P as in Peter, M-A-N.
Yes. And I will put
Everything.
all your info in the
Thank
description
you.
below. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks. Go check out, yeah, my discussion on, again, on, if you're interested about, its use in seizures with the veterinary neurologist on my page. So yeah,
Very cool. Thank you.
thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok if you're not already, and join the community. Let us know what you think. And we'd love your feedback and your likes and your subscriptions, but most of all, your ideas. What else do you want to hear and see and learn about pets? Till next time.